Humans have existed on Earth for at least 12 million years, but not in today's physical form. Instead, they existed as luminous spirits connected to the entire universe. This is part of the history of human life according to the readings of Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. Edgar Cayce was a believer in the Akashic records, and during his trances, he believed he was visiting this hall of records to gather the information he needed about his clients. He believed in a form of reincarnation, where an individual's will in this world, combined with the influence and impact of actions from their past lives, determines their current life circumstances. And the influence of a person's activities in their previous incarnations is much greater than the effect of the movements of stars, planets, and constellations on their current life conditions. Each soul, referred to as entity in Cayce's readings, when entering the earthly system in human form, has access to the traits, psychological capacities, and talents that it acquired in its past lives. However, just as it can benefit from the good experiences it had in its previous incarnations, it also brings negative emotions such as hatred, fear, resentment, or greed into this world. These emotions and traits have delayed its progress toward reaching the highest degree of humanity, and the soul has returned to this world to confront and combat these negative characteristics. In the form of reincarnation that Cayce proposed, souls return to Earth to face the challenges they did not resolve in their previous lives. In some cases, these challenges accompany an individual for several lifetimes until they find a solution. Additionally, Cayce's readings suggest that people have likely interacted with the same souls across their various incarnations. That is, the close relationships and acquaintances one has today were likely present in their previous lives as well, playing a role in their spiritual evolution. In this belief, every soul on Earth should use the opportunities provided by various incarnations to balance its positive and negative karmas. Karma itself, in Cayce's belief, is a universal principle of cause and effect that offers a soul the opportunity for physical or psychological growth. However, according to Cayce, humans were not always in the form they are today. They were once spirits who, after a long and tumultuous journey, became trapped in their current physical bodies. We have been reviewing this book based on Cayce's readings about Atlantis. The book's content is the result of examining over 1,000 of Cayce's readings, and they present a history far older than what we have in official accounts. Life on Earth began nearly 5 billion years ago, during a time when all beings were still connected to one source known as collective consciousness, when nature and the relationships among Earth's creatures were always in balance. But 12 million years ago, during the height of the Lemurian civilization, the first aggressive race disrupted this balance to some extent. Although the first race of humans on Earth, who existed as spirits, remained connected to the collective consciousness. Cayce's descriptions of this consciousness make it very similar to the spiritual world in ancient Persian beliefs. If you're interested in this topic, be sure to find the link to a series of videos on ancient Persian beliefs in the description section. Around 10 million years ago, Earth was attacked by a second aggressive race. At this stage, individuality had not yet emerged, and we existed in a non-physical form, as a collection of thoughts. The term all-in-one has been used to describe the state of Earth's inhabitants at that time. This form of life continued on Earth for millions of years, although the presence of representatives from the previous aggressive races gradually began to set the stage for a fundamental change. This change occurred about 212,000 years ago, during the era of Atlantis. The important point in this narrative is the significant time gap between the Lemurian and Atlantean civilizations, with the Atlantean civilization emerging more than 9 million years after the beginning of Lemuria. At this time, the third aggressive race, which also appears in Mayan mythologies and is referred to as Blue Maize people, arrived on Earth. It was during this period that the first physical body for humans was created, and efforts to create the human beings we know today began. Thus, the spirits that had been part of the collective consciousness and existed in an infinite state until then found themselves confined to physical bodies with the limitations of time and space, and reincarnation began. This means that each human, as a soul, has been present on Earth for millions of years, but their physical form and the time of their presence in this world have constantly changed. However, the first physical form of humans was not in the shape we know today, as both male and female aspects were combined in one body, similar to the Persian mythological accounts of Kayumars, the first perfect and complete human. Finally, about 108,000 years ago, the first man and woman came into being. According to the story, a higher force known as Logos, which can be equated with the essence and nature of God in religious beliefs, put the first human, who had both male and female aspects, into a deep sleep and separated these aspects. The first is in a female form known as Lilith, and the second is in a male form named Amilius. In this narrative, much of the effort to create the first man and woman took place in Atlantis. Nearly 5 decades after this change in human nature, around 60,000 years ago, the first phase of Atlantis's destruction occurred, which led to this unified land breaking into 5 smaller islands. The main cause of this destruction was the intensification of individuality in humans in their physical form and the increase in negative emotions among them, leading to the definition of social classes and the misuse of the special crystals of Atlantis by those who had access to them. These crystals were the source of energy for all activities in Atlantis, but they could be used in any way desired. The second phase of Atlantis's destruction occurred around 28,000 years ago. In this period, a deadly ray was produced from the life-giving crystal, which could kill animals and gradually pave the way for the disintegration of the unified human spirit. Less than 6,000 years later, a great flood occurred, which in religious narratives is referred to as the Flood of Noah. Nearly 10,000 years after the flood that destroyed all of the first creation, around 12,000 years ago, those who are introduced in religious narratives as Adam and Eve came into being in the form of modern humans, and human civilization began anew. Around 1,500 years later, which would be about 10,500 years ago, humans, who still had a high level of technology, began building the first educational centers across the Earth. During this time, pyramids or structures resembling pyramids were constructed as energy centers around the world. The land of Lemuria was also completely destroyed during this period, and its inhabitants, who had been present on Earth for nearly 12 million years, began to migrate. And in one of the upcoming videos, we will certainly discuss the theories that suggest some of the inhabitants of Lemuria reached the region of today's Iran, and what we know as ancient Persian wisdom is the heritage of these migrants from Lemuria. The final phase of Atlantis's destruction occurred around 10,000 years ago, and it was at this time that human individuality overcame their collective consciousness, leading to the loss of their connection to the spiritual world, and they continued their existence on Earth only in physical human form. But how did the souls, who were part of a collective and unified consciousness, agree to enter physical bodies one by one? The readings of Cayce have a unique narrative on this, which we will explore in the next videos.